The rumors surrounding Matt Stafford and the New York Giants are heating up. Could New York look to make a trade for Super Bowl champion Matthew Stafford? We're going to break it down on today's show, but first, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We put out free, informative, entertaining, passion-driven content on your New York football Giants, and it is Philly week, and I don't care who's playing. I don't care what week it is. I don't care what the record is. I hate the Eagles, and I always want to beat them. And here at Chat Sports, we've got an Eagles channel hosted by my guy Chase Sr., and he told me that there is no way that Giants Now could pick up more subscribers this week than those frauds over at Eagles Now. And I said, let's make a bet then. Hit that sub button, help us beat the Eagles, and let's go Big Blue. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. As we take a deep dive into the internet rumors and the speculation and the talking around Matt Stafford potentially being on the radar and a trade target for the New York Giants. Look, this started when Fansided wrote an article 2 days ago where they listed the top trade destinations for Stafford. They had the Miami Dolphins at number 3 due to their injuries with Tua and their revolving door at the backup quarterback situation. They also mentioned the Tennessee Titans because Will Levis, he just ain't it. And at number 1, it was the New York Football Giants. This is what Fansided said. Quote, Daniel Jones has been disappointing to say the least. The Giants committed long-term to Jones via a contract extension. If the Rams don't turn things around, the Giants should be one of the teams interested in adding Stafford. Malik Neighbors has had a solid rookie season, and with a QB like Stafford, the Giants could contend as one of the top teams in the NFC East. While statistically, Jones has had a decent 2024 season so far, but the question becomes consistency. A good regular season doesn't result in playoff success and certainly doesn't mean it will be consistent. Look, I think there are a lot of layers to Matthew Stafford being a New York Giant. Do you make the trade now? Do you make the trade later? How much would he cost? Would the Giants be able to win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford? Does trading for Matt Stafford take you out of drafting a rookie quarterback this year? I thought all those questions, and I've got answers to all those questions. But my main takeaway is, I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea of the New York Giants going out and trading for the Dallas, Texas gunslinger, former Super Bowl champion. And look, the Giants have done this before. Maybe not a trade, but they've gone out and they've added a Super Bowl winning quarterback from the Los Angeles Rams. And at that point, it was the St. Louis Rams. And then they drafted a Manning. And then that Manning went on to win 2 Super Bowls. Last time the Giants did this, it got them a man. I'm not saying if you trade for Stafford, you're automatically going to get Arch Manning. But I know it's a joke, and we're all kind of just laughing at it a little bit. But what I do think this is trading for Matt Stafford makes you a little less desperate. And it doesn't make going out and getting a quarterback in 2025 a must-do. Maybe you don't love a quarterback in 2025. You don't have to make that trade. And maybe you have the quarterbacks in 2026, so you could do that. But also, Matt Stafford, I understand he's 36 years old. He's closer to the end of the career than the beginning of his career. But the dude can still ball. The dude, in my opinion, is still the best quarterback in the NFC. And I think if you add him to the New York Giants, maybe not this year, find out more about that Andrew Thomas injury, but I think in the future, maybe in 2025, maybe in 2026, I seriously think that they could win the NFC East. On top of that, it's a steal of a deal when it comes to the contract side of things. So when you trade for a player, you take on their base salary. And in 2024, the base salary for Matthew Stafford is $23.5 million. And you have to prorate that over an 18-week season. So the Giants would owe Matthew Stafford $1.3 million per game that he is on the Giants roster. If they made the trade today, or if they made the trade before Sunday, Stafford would be owed and he would take up $15.6 million of the cap for 2024. Not too shabby. Where it gets better is you would owe him just $31 million in 2025 and just $31 million in 2026. Paying a quarterback $31 million that, in my opinion, is the best in the NFC is an absolute steal. So from that perspective, that one layer, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Giants. The question is, how realistic is it? Remember, the Giants would have to get up to $15.6 million in cap space. Right now, they have $3.6 million. You'd probably want that number to get close to $20 million. When I first made this graphic, it was before I found out that Andrew Thomas may have been ruled out for the season. So maybe you don't want to restructure Andrew Thomas. Or maybe you still do. I mean, if you're motivated to trade for Matt Stafford, you're going to do whatever it takes. I just showed this to show you that there is a way for it to happen. You can restructure Thomas. You could restructure Burns. You could restructure Dexter Lawrence. You could restructure Bobby Okereke. And you have a lot of cap space next year. You saw $48 million. And then if you cut Daniel Jones, that money goes up to, you save $19 million, so 48 to about 68. Then you subtract 31. Still have $37 million in cap space. I say all that to say, if the Giants really wanted to, if the Giants deemed that Matthew Stafford was a player that they should go out and trade for, there is a way that they can manipulate the cap to make it happen. And I'll say this, the LA Rams, they've already been manipulating their cap and the contract with Matthew Stafford so they could move off of him maybe now or at the end of the season. I want to go to a couple of quotes here. We'll start from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. He wrote this article before the season happened, and then we'll go to PFT, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, and we'll go to his article, which was wrote this week. Fowler of ESPN says the Los Angeles Rams have looked at Stafford's future as a year-to-year proposition. His reworked contract last offseason reflects that, pushing his 2024 pay into the $40 million range, but lessening his guarantees in 2025, essentially allowing both sides to decide whether they want to remain married at that point. This is a situation to watch closely because neither player nor team seems to know how or when it will end. Stafford is 36 and has dealt with injuries recently. Does he want to play after this season? Some to monitor as well. Mike Florio wrote an article saying, is Matt Stafford a trade candidate? And he says, the Rams quarterback quite possibly is in his last season with the team, regardless of whether the Rams can reverse a 1-4 start. If the Rams might parlay the remainder of his 2024 contract into draft picks and he'd get a fresh start elsewhere, it makes sense to at least consider it. Look, Stafford being dealt or cut after this year, or just a separation after this year is not all that crazy. I don't think it is impossible to suggest that in 2025, Stafford's on a different team, or he's back on the Rams. I thought that Fowler and Florio put it right out there for you. It could end right now, or it could end later. But both team and player are preparing for a, I guess you could say, divorce from the two parties. Now, a midseason trade is probably a little bit more unlikely. And today's video is not just all about the Giants making a midseason trade. I do think there are some pros to making a midseason trade. I'd rather have him sooner rather than later. But let's say we get to February and the New York Giants have done their scouting on pro prospects and they're like, we don't really love any of these quarterbacks, but we can't run it back with DJ. We got to cut him. We got to save $20 million. What about a trade for Stafford to be your bridge quarterback for 1 to 2 years, 3 years? What if he's great for 4 more years? I think Stafford's going to be able to play for a long time due to the arm talent and the IQ. And I'm not so sure that it's going to be that expensive. Like, what if it's just a second-round pick? What if Sean McVay in the front office of LA says, Joe, if you give us your second-round pick coming up this April, we will give you Matt Stafford. Whether that trade is now, whether that trade is at the end of the season, don't think it's the worst idea. What do you think? Let's say, keep in mind, whether it's now, whether it's after the season, I think it really does not matter. Would you make this trade, sending a second-round pick to LA and the New York Giants adding Stafford as their franchise quarterback or a bridge at minimum? Type A for accept, type D for decline. I want to hear from all of you in the comment section. I'll give my answer and why I think the Giants should or should not do it coming up in a second. But first, I got to get you guys hooked up with our proud sponsor, the best ticketing app in the game. It's Game Time. What time is it? It's Game Time. Playoff baseball's here. We might get a Subway Series. Tickets are going to be expensive. You can save yourself $20 off by using that promo code ChatSports on your first purchase where terms do apply. Game Time is the app where you get the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed. Prices actually drop as the events get closer. You get to see your seat view in the app. You get to access your tickets from your phone. And if you want to resell your tickets, it is very easy to do so. I've used all the apps out there. Game Time is the best, and the thing that I appreciate them the most is that the customer gets the best user experience and the lowest price guaranteed. Also, the features, like the all-in pricing feature, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees when you get to checkout, is awesome. And the Game Time Picks feature, it makes it that much more easy to go see your favorite team or concert perform. Download the app, create an account, use the promo code ChatSports, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. What time is it? Game Time. Support the show. Support the sponsor. $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. Look, I would accept this trade. I thought about it long and hard over the last 12 hours, and I think I would accept that trade. And there's a lot of reasons that I would accept the trade. And it's not because I don't think the Giants need to draft a rookie quarterback. And we'll expand on that in a little bit. Three main reasons, though, that I think the Giants, if it took a second-round pick to get Matthew Stafford, should do it. The dude could still play. The dude could still sling it. The guy is still one of the best in the National Football League. I believe he is the best quarterback in the NFC. I know the stats aren't all that great this year. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but he's doing it without Cooper Kupp. He's doing it without Puka Nacua. He's doing it with a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball. And this is a guy that tore up the San Francisco 49ers when they played them this year. His ability to play with elite skill, but also elite decision-making, processing ability, and just working the game as a veteran, I think continues to get better and better. Think about it like this. Matthew Stafford had 33 big-time throws in 2023. Daniel Jones has 22 big-time throws in the last 4 seasons. Daniel Jones has 66 career big-time throws. Matthew Stafford did that 33 times last year. Matthew Stafford in 2023 completed 28 throws on 54 attempts of throws with 20-plus air yards last season. That's a 52% completion percentage on balls that traveled 20-plus yards. I believe Daniel Jones is 5 of 20 on throws this year. Matthew Stafford is a perfect quarterback for Brian Daboll. Matthew Stafford in a Brian Daboll offense would be a movie. Like, if you could ask Brian Daboll to drop his prototypical quarterback, I think that guy would have a lot of the same skill sets that Matthew Stafford does. And anytime you can go out and get a quarterback that moves the needle, I think you do it. And I think this is a guy that could still move the needle. And dare I say it, I think the Giants are a Matthew Stafford away from the P word. And I think they would go deep in the P word if they had Matthew Stafford. I think the Giants are a average quarterback away from the P word. I understand the Andrew Thomas injury probably changes this up a little bit. But, man, even going into 2025, I think if your offense looks like this with Stafford at the helm, his 3 receivers being Neighbors, Wandale, and Slayton, and your offensive line at Thomas, Runyon, Schmitz, Van Roten, and Illuminor, or maybe you lose Slayton and you add another receiver, like this team, this offense would be legit under Brian Daboll. I really do think that this would take this offense to another stratosphere. There's a lot of talent for Matthew Stafford to work with a lot of protection as well. And you pair that with the New York Giants so far through 2024 having a top 5, top 10 defense, a Super Bowl caliber defense. I think the Giants would be a legit threat. And I think the Giants added Matthew Stafford for the 2025 season, maybe this offseason. I think that they would be the favorites to win the NFC East. Your defense is unreal. When it comes to TDs allowed per game this year, 6th in the NFL. 1st in sacks, 1st in sack rate, 2nd in tackles for loss, and 9th in points per game allowed. Your defense is legit. I think it makes sense there. And I also think that it makes you less desperate moving forward. I think that it puts less of a stress on finding that next franchise quarterback in the NFL draft. That's still a priority for me. Don't get it twisted. Even if I add Matthew Stafford in a trade this offseason, I may still draft a quarterback in round 1 if I fall in love with him. But trading for Stafford puts you in a spot where you can be more patient with drafting a QB, because the last thing you want to do is reach like you did on Daniel Jones. The last thing you want to do is go out and draft a quarterback that you're not absolutely in love with, that you're not 100% sure that he can be the franchise guy. And even if you do trade for Stafford and you find yourself in a position to draft a Cam Ward who you love, or you find yourself in a position to draft anybody in this class that you love, you can still take him, and then you're not in a spot where you need to rush him to play. How many times have we seen these quarterbacks sit a year and benefit from it? How many times have we seen these quarterbacks thrown into the fire immediately and struggle because of it? Look, I think there's cases for both sides. If you tell me you don't want to waste a second-round pick on trading for Stafford because you want to use that draft capital to better the team for now and the future and maybe use that second-round pick to trade up for a quarterback in 2025, I get it. But at the same time, I'm also going to say, well, I can get a franchise quarterback for a second-round pick, maybe make my team a playoff team and still have my first-round pick and still be in a spot to draft a quarterback I love in 2025 and still in 2026. I think there are truly positives on both sides. But at the end of the day, I would do the deal because I think it makes you a playoff contender and a team that can win multiple playoff games in 2025. I truly believe that because I think Matthew Stafford is still the best quarterback in the NFC. Make sure you are following me on Twitter. I'm at @MarshallGreen_ on Twitter, at @MarshallGreen_ on Instagram. Look, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying it's the most likely scenario. But I do think we could live in a world where maybe we get to the end of the season and we could start to hear the Matthew Stafford trade rumors heat up, as the Rams are probably going to pick a quarterback when they pick inside the top 10 this season.